Welcome back to The Perspective on Beri Desatu. I'm Blaze Hope. With me in the studio to mark World Food Day is the World Food Programme's representative in Indonesia, Anthea Webb. Anthea, before the break, we're talking about what people are eating and how that's affecting their health not very well. What kind of food are we talking about?
So essentially what you need everyone in Indonesia to be able to access is the right kind of blend of a diet. So it needs to be balanced with rice for sure, but then complemented by much more fresh fruit and vegetables, much more protein-rich food like meat, fish, eggs, dairy foods. And that way you'll have a way of addressing both the undernutrition and the overnutrition that are placing a very heavy burden potentially on Indonesia going forward.
So with Eastern Indonesia being it's the least developed part of the country and it's the one which has the worst problems with this, is part of what you're doing just trying to link them with places like East Java, where a lot of so much fruit and vegetables are grown? Is that part of what the WFP does?
We're not so much looking at those supply chains, although they are super important. One of the activities that we're doing in East Java and NTT province at the moment looks at providing meals in schools. And what that allows us to do is to work with local farmers to purchase food from them, so there's a market incentive for them to produce more, with local communities, with women who are then cooking the food for the students, and with the teachers who are able to measure whether or not that food that's being produced is having a positive impact on the kids' education. It really is something that hopefully provides a win-win-win for all of the communities. And what we see is that when children go to school and have a balanced meal at lunch or at snack time, their attention span improves immediately. And so they're able to absorb much more knowledge. And that's a very, very positive outcome.
And you have representatives in NTT working with schools directly?
Yep, we have an office in NTT. What's most important though is that the community themselves are the ones who are running the project and who are able to monitor whether or not it's going well. And that gives it a much better sustainability than if it was just an organization like ours coming in from the outside.
It creates public awareness as well.
Creates public awareness, and so what the children learn in school about how important it is to have a balanced diet, they take home, and what they learn about how important it is to wash their hands and to have good hygiene, they also take back home, and so that spreads as well.
You have a feeding program in Papua. Can you tell me a bit about that?
It's the same school meal program looking at purchasing food from farmers. The really important group that are helping us are the PKK, the Women's Association. They're the ones who are really pushing local governments to invest their own money in this so that all of their children see benefit from it. And it has taken off tremendously. We've expanded, doubled the number of children that we're reaching there. More importantly, the government has started taking over the programs that we start and move on to so that there's a series of continuity.
Are you managing to get out of places like Manokwari, Jayapura, and into the sort of harder to reach areas?
It's hard work, yes, but we are. And so we've just started working in 4 additional districts across the country, some of them in the highlands, in Biak and Merauke and others. It's tough. But if it wasn't tough, someone would have already done it. And so, but what we do see is the absolute commitment of local authorities and communities to making a difference in kids' nutrition and their education outcomes.
And is that not unique, but sort of a highlight of the situation in Eastern Indonesia? Do you see that in other parts of Southeast Asia, that kind of cooperation?
Fortunately, when it's set up right and when the community is involved from the start, it tends to work well everywhere from the highlands of Papua to Brazil. It won't be the same recipe or the same exact model each place, but what we have learned is that it's really important to get local people involved from the start and for them to understand that this is an investment in their own community's future.
And they don't see it as sort of an outside influence trying to exert itself.
It makes a lot more sense when it comes in as something that's a product of their deciding to do it.
Going back just to overnutrition for a bit, what is this related to the Indonesian diet in terms of what dishes are popular, heavy on oil, or is this again, just lack of awareness?
Well, I think it's a problem that's common to just about every country in the world these days, unfortunately. And many countries like Indonesia are struggling with this double, what they call the dual burden of undernutrition and overnutrition. It's very much linked to changes in lifestyle and changes in the way that society works. So when more people move to the cities and end up in sedentary jobs instead of jobs that involve a lot of labor, then naturally there's less energy burned. Another factor is that people living in cities tend to eat out a lot more, and the sorts of food that are available in warung tend to be heavy on calories and light on nutrition.
So is there a sort of situation going on that we've seen in the Pacific Islands where the arrival of of cheap available food has led to a massive spike in obesity in some areas of Indonesia?
It would take a little more study for us to come to the same conclusion, but what you certainly see is this drive towards urbanization changing people's practices, be they from what they eat to what they do with physically. And so we have a moment here to intervene where we can actually try and avoid getting to that point when you're looking at fixing the problem rather than preventing it.
Okay, well, we've got to go to break again. Thanks, Anthea. But stay tuned on The Perspective. We'll be back with more after the break.